Have you ever felt emotionally isolated even when people are around you? You may be talking, smiling, or listening in a conversation, yet inside there is a quiet emptiness that is hard to explain. Everything looks normal from the outside, but internally you feel disconnected. This experience can be confusing because you are not physically alone. The psychological reason behind this feeling is usually not about the number of people in your life, but about the depth of emotional connection and how much of your true self you allow others to see. One of the main causes of emotional isolation is the gap between your inner thoughts and your outer behavior. In social situations, many people automatically filter themselves. They adjust their personalities, soften their opinions, and hide certain emotions to avoid judgment. This often happens without conscious awareness. The brain does this as a protection mechanism. It wants to reduce the risk of rejection. However, when you consistently show only a controlled version of yourself, others connect with that version, not with your authentic self. Over time, this creates a silent emotional distance. Even if people feel close to you, you may not feel truly understood. Emotional suppression strengthens this distance. If expressing feelings was discouraged at some point in your life, you may have learned to manage emotions privately. You might minimize your struggles, avoid deep conversations, or quickly shift topics when things become personal. While this keeps interactions comfortable on the surface, it prevents deeper bonding. Emotional connection requires vulnerability. Without vulnerability, relationships remain limited to surface-level exchanges, which often feel unsatisfying. Another psychological factor is constant self-monitoring. Instead of being present in conversations, your attention turns inward. You analyze your words, your tone, and your reactions. This mental habit shifts your focus from connection to self-protection. When the mind operates in protection mode, it becomes cautious rather than open. Genuine emotional closeness depends on openness, and openness decreases when the brain is busy guarding against possible judgment. Comparison also contributes to emotional isolation. When you assume others are more confident or emotionally secure, you may start believing that you are somehow different in a negative way. This belief affects how you interpret social interactions. Neutral responses may feel like rejection. Minor misunderstandings may feel larger than they are. Emotional isolation often grows from these internal interpretations rather than from actual exclusion. It is important to understand that feeling emotionally isolated does not mean you are incapable of forming close relationships. Often, it means you desire more meaningful and authentic connection. The mind is not asking for more interaction. It is asking for deeper understanding and emotional safety. When you gradually reduce the gap between your real feelings and your external behavior, connection becomes more genuine. Small acts of honesty, such as expressing a real opinion or sharing a personal thought, can slowly weaken the sense of isolation. The psychological reason you feel emotionally isolated is usually rooted in protection, not weakness. The brain learned to protect you by limiting exposure. However, long-term protection can turn into long-term distance. When authenticity increases, emotional connection has space to grow. And sometimes the shift begins with allowing yourself to be seen more clearly than before.